The stars were quiet that night in deep space. The human pilot sat alone in his small ship. He had traveled for weeks, moving from one dead system to another. The universe was silent, cold, and endless. He liked the silence. But on this night, silence was broken. A sound came through his old radio. At first it was static, soft cracks like whispers. The pilot leaned forward. He thought it was a mistake, some broken wire, but then he heard a voice. It was not a human voice. It was soft, almost like a song, but filled with sadness. The voice said, "Human, I have no arms. I cannot care for my daughter. Please, help me. Be my husband." The pilot froze. His hands gripped the console. He thought maybe he was dreaming. Who speaks like that? Who would send such words into the void? He replayed the signal. The voice repeated the same message again and again, each time more desperate, more broken. "I have no arms. Human. I cannot care for my daughter. Please, help me." The pilot felt a strange chill. He had flown through many strange systems before. He had seen dead ships, heard ghost signals, and even found traps set by pirates. But this was different. This was not a trick. This was a cry for help. He set his scanners to track the signal. The computer worked slowly, pulling threads of sound from the void, trying to find where the voice came from. After a few moments, the location appeared. It was an old space station orbiting a dying star. The pilot looked out the window. The star burned weakly, red and fading, like an old candle ready to die. Around it, a small station drifted, silent, broken, forgotten. That was the source. That was where the voice waited. He hesitated. Many times he had told himself not to stop for strangers. Space was not kind. Many had died chasing ghost signals. But the voice, the words, they touched something inside him. A daughter, a mother, a cry for help. The pilot powered his engines and set a course. As he drew closer, he could see the station more clearly. It was cracked and damaged, metal twisted like broken bones. Lights flickered weakly on its surface as if life was struggling to stay alive inside. The radio crackled again. The voice returned, softer now, weaker. "Human, please, I cannot hold on." The pilot spoke for the first time. His voice was low, steady. "Who are you? What do you want from me?" There was silence. Then the answer came. "I am a mother. My people are gone. My arms, taken in war. My child is small. She will die without care. You are human. You are strong. Please, help me." The pilot's chest tightened. He did not know why. He had fought in wars before. He had lost comrades. He had seen the weak cry out and be ignored. But this voice, it was different. It was not begging for herself. It was begging for her child. He thought about shutting down the radio. He thought about turning away, flying back into silence. But he could not. Something inside him whispered, "Go." The station loomed ahead. He prepared to dock. His ship shuddered as it connected with the broken metal ring. Inside, the corridors were dark and silent. He carried a light, moving slowly through the dust. Every corner felt heavy, like ghosts were watching. Machines were broken, doors half open, air thin. He wondered how anyone could survive here. Finally, he reached a door. His scanner showed life inside, two hearts, faint but alive. He pressed the button. The door opened with a hiss. There she was, tall, thin, graceful in a strange way. Her body was marked with scars. Where arms should be, there was nothing, smooth, healed, empty. She turned her head and looked at him. Her eyes glowed faintly in the dark, filled with pain but also hope. Beside her was a small child. The child hid behind her mother, peeking out with wide, curious eyes. The alien mother spoke. Her voice was the same as the signal, soft, sad, but strong. "You came. You heard me. Human, please. Be my husband. Care for my daughter." "I cannot." The pilot said nothing. He could not find words. His mind filled with questions. Why him? Why a human? Why call him husband? But before he could ask, the child stepped forward. She looked up at him, small and fragile, and in that moment he understood this was not a trick, not a trap. This was real, a mother who could not care for her child, a daughter who would not survive alone, and a human standing at the door facing a choice he never expected. The silence of space was gone. The story had begun. The human pilot stood frozen at the doorway. The light from his lamp fell across the small chamber. The alien mother and her daughter stared back at him. The air was heavy, filled with silence. The mother spoke first. Her voice was low, soft, almost like a whisper carried by the wind. You came, human. You heard me. Her body was tall and thin, her skin pale with strange patterns like fading silver. Her scars were deep, reminders of battles lost. Where arms should be, there was only smooth skin, healed but empty. Yet her face was strong, her eyes glowing faintly with both sorrow and hope. Beside her, the child clung tightly to her mother's side. The little one's eyes were wide, round, filled with fear and curiosity. She was small, fragile, her body shaking under the weight of the cold air. The human took a step forward. His boots made a hollow sound against the metal floor. He looked at the alien woman and finally spoke. Why me? Why call for a human? The alien mother lowered her head. Because humans do not abandon family. My people, they are gone. My daughter is all I have, but I cannot care for her. I have no arms. I cannot feed her. I cannot hold her when she cries. If I fail, she will die. So I called. I prayed someone would hear me. And you did. The human's heart tightened. He wanted to speak, but the words would not come. Instead, he watched the child. Her big eyes were locked on him, studying him as if he was already part of her story. The alien mother's voice shook as she spoke again. Be my husband. Not for me, for her. Care for my child. Protect her. Teach her. Love her as your own. The human felt his breath grow heavy. He had never heard such a request before. To be called a husband by someone not even of his kind. To be asked to care for a child that was not his own. He wanted to refuse. He wanted to walk away. But his feet did not move. His chest felt heavy and his mind returned to memories. Memories of war, of comrades lost, of children crying in broken cities. He had promised himself he would never let another child suffer if he could help it. The silence stretched. Then he asked, what happened to your people? The mother's eyes darkened. War, a race we once trusted, betrayed us. They took our world, burned our homes, slaughtered our men. I fought to protect my daughter. I fought until I lost my arms. But I lived because she needed me. I found this old station and hid here. But I am broken, human. My body is weak. Every day I feel my strength fading. Soon I will be gone. That is why I called. That is why I begged. Her words echoed in the cold chamber. The human looked at the child again. She was watching him still, her little hands gripping the edge of her mother's robe. She had no words, but her eyes spoke everything. Fear, hunger, hope. The human finally knelt down to her level. Slowly, carefully, he removed his helmet so the child could see his face. His hair was dark, his eyes tired but warm. He gave her a small smile. The child blinked, then stepped closer. She touched his face with her small fingers, curious. She whispered something in her language too soft for him to understand. But her tone was clear. It was the tone of a child meeting someone she wanted to trust. The alien mother watched, her eyes filling with tears. She accepts you. She has never reached for another before. The human stood again. He looked at the mother. His voice was steady, though his heart was not. I will not promise what I cannot keep, but I will not turn away from her. The mother closed her eyes and breathed deeply. Relief, sorrow, and gratitude mixed together on her face. Then you are already her father. The human looked around the broken chamber. The air was thin, the machines old and failing. The mother and child had survived here, but not for long. He knew they could not stay. Your station is dying, he said. If we stay here, all of us will die. Come with me. My ship is small, but it is alive. It can keep you safe. The mother hesitated. She looked down at her daughter, then back at the human. If you take us, you take our enemies too. They will follow. They will kill you. The human shook his head. I have lived long enough without a purpose. If I die protecting a child, then I die with meaning. The mother's eyes widened. For the first time she smiled. Small, broken, but real. The human extended his hand toward her. Not as a lover, not as a husband, but as a promise. She could not take it, but she bowed her head in respect. The little girl, however, reached out her tiny hand and placed it in his. It was warm, trembling, fragile. The human looked down at her, and in that moment he knew. His life had changed forever. The station groaned, metal creaking around them. The air smelled of rust and fire. The human looked back toward the door. We leave now, he said. Before it's too late, the mother whispered one last time. Thank you, human. You are hope made flesh. And together, The human, the alien mother, and her child walked into the dark corridor toward the waiting ship. The silence of space had given him a family. The meeting was only the beginning. The human ship drifted slowly away from the broken station. Inside the cockpit, 3 lives now shared one space. The human pilot sat in silence at the controls. Behind him, the alien mother and her daughter rested in the passenger bay. The ship was small, made for one person, not a family. The air felt heavy with their presence. Every sound, the hum of the engine, the beep of the scanners, seemed louder now. The human's mind was restless. He had lived alone for years, wandering from one system to another. He never stayed long in one place, never let anyone close. Yet now, without warning, he was no longer alone. He had become something else, a husband, a father, a protector. The words pressed against his chest, heavy and unfamiliar. He remembered the alien mother's plea. Be my husband. Not for me, for her. The human tightened his grip on the controls. He was a soldier once, yes. He knew how to fight, how to survive. But he had never raised a child. He had never cared for anyone in that way. Could he? Should he? He looked at the radar screen. Empty space stretched ahead, but danger always hid in silence. Her enemies might still be out there watching, waiting. He could fight ships, yes, but could he fight fate? Could he fight time itself, which was slowly killing the mother? Behind him he heard the child's small voice. She was singing in her own tongue, a soft high melody. The sound was pure, untouched by the darkness of war. It struck him deep inside. He turned slightly, watching her. She sat cross-legged, her big eyes focused on the toy he had given her, a small piece of metal from his toolkit. She held it carefully like it was a treasure. She was fragile, yet her laughter filled the empty ship with light. The human felt something stir in him, something he had buried long ago. Hope. The mother noticed him watching. She lifted her gaze, meeting his eyes. Even without arms, even with her body broken, she carried herself with dignity. Her voice was calm but filled with sorrow. You are thinking of leaving us. I can see it in your eyes. The human shook his head, but he did not speak. She continued. It is not wrong to doubt, human. My request was heavy. I asked you to take a burden not your own. You could still walk away. You owe us nothing. Her words cut deep. He wanted to argue, but the truth was sharp. She was right. He could still drop them off on some safe world and disappear back into silence. But when he looked at the child again, he knew he could not. He spoke at last. His voice was rough, uncertain. I am not a father. I am not even a good man. I have killed in wars. I have done things I cannot forget. How can I raise a child? How can I be what she needs? The mother's eyes softened. You misunderstand. She does not need a perfect man. She needs someone who will not leave her, someone who will stand when the world falls. That is what humans are. That is why I called for one of you. The human frowned. Why humans? Why not your own kind? Her voice grew quiet. Because humans are different. We have stories of you, how you rise when beaten, how you fight when hopeless, how you protect even strangers as family. My people, we admired you. We called you the stubborn fire. I believed only a human could give my daughter the chance to live. The human leaned back in his chair. Her words were strange, yet they touched him. For years he had seen himself as a wanderer with no place, a soldier with no war, a man with no reason to go on. But to her, to this mother and child, he was more than that. He was a chance. The ship trembled suddenly. Alarms beeped. The human turned sharply to his screens. A faint signal was chasing them from behind. Enemy. His chest tightened. They had been found. He quickly adjusted the engines, pushing the ship into faster flight. The stars streaked outside the window. The child clutched her mother's side, frightened by the sudden speed. The human spoke calmly, hiding his fear. Hold on, we are not safe yet. The mother's voice was steady. They will not stop. They will hunt us until the end. If you stay with us, you become their target too. You will die for us. Her words hung in the air. They were not a warning, they were a test. The human looked at her, then at the child, then back at the endless dark ahead. He thought of his life before, empty, silent, without meaning. And he thought of this new path. Danger, yes, but also connection. He whispered to himself. Better to die protecting life than to live with nothing. The decision settled inside him, heavy but clear. He turned to the mother, his voice firm. I will not leave you. If I must fight, I will fight. If I must die, I will die, but I will not abandon your daughter." The mother's eyes glistened with unshed tears. For the first time, she bowed her head to him in true respect. The child, not fully understanding, reached again for his hand. Small fingers wrapped around his. The human felt the weight of his choice, but also a strange warmth. A purpose he had lost long ago was now burning again inside him. The dilemma was no longer a question. His path was chosen. He was no longer just a pilot. He was a protector. He was a father, and the enemies chasing them would soon learn what it meant to face a human with something to protect. The human ship cut through the dark, leaving the ruined station and chasing enemy behind. Hours passed, then days. The endless stars stretched in all directions. The silence of space returned, but inside the small ship, silence no longer felt empty. 3 lives now shared the same air. 3 hearts beat in rhythm with the hum of the engines. The human kept to the controls, eyes sharp, always watching the radar for threats. Yet his ears caught every sound behind him, the soft breathing of the alien mother, the small laughter of her child, the gentle whispers between them. It was strange. His ship had always been quiet. Now it was alive. The child had changed first. At the beginning, she hid behind her mother, afraid of this strange human with scarred hands and tired eyes. But slowly, curiosity grew. She followed him when he moved through the narrow corridors. She copied his actions, touching the walls the way he did, sitting in the pilot's chair when he left it. One day, she climbed onto his lap as he worked. She pointed at the blinking lights on the console and made little sounds, asking questions in her language. The human did not understand her words, but he answered anyway, pointing to each button. "This is the engine. This is the scanner. This one. Don't touch." The girl laughed, a sound like bells in the still air. The human felt his lips curve into something he had not done in years, a smile. The alien mother watched from the corner, her eyes soft. She said nothing, but the warmth in her gaze spoke louder than words. Still, the human's heart was restless. He had accepted his role, yes, but doubt remained. Could he truly care for them? Could he protect them when the enemies came again? At night, when the mother rested, he thought of his past. He thought of the war, the lives he had failed to save. His hands, once weapons, were now meant to hold, to build, to guide. Could they truly change? One evening, the mother spoke to him while the child slept. "You are quiet, human, always quiet. You watch us, but you keep a wall inside. Why?" He hesitated, then answered honestly. "I fear not of battle. I fear of failing. I fear of giving hope and losing it." The mother lowered her head, her voice calm. "Hope is always dangerous, but without it we are already dead. My daughter laughs again because of you. She eats because of you. She sleeps safely because of you. You are already what she needs." The human looked at the small sleeping child. Her tiny body curled on the seat, her breathing steady. For the first time, he allowed himself to believe her words. Days passed and the bond grew. The child gave him a new name in her own language, a word that meant protector. She called it every time she ran to him, every time she clutched his hand. The human did not correct her. He carried the name like armor. He also began to learn their ways. The mother taught him her people's customs, how they honored the stars before sleep, how they sang soft songs to guide children's dreams. She could not hold her daughter with arms, but her words and her songs wrapped around the child like a blanket. Sometimes the human joined her. His deep voice was rough, broken, but the mother never laughed. Instead, she smiled, saying, "You sing like stone, but stone is strong." Yet even in these gentle days, shadows lingered. The radar often flickered with faint signals, ghosts of ships trailing them. Enemies had not forgotten. They were searching, waiting. The human knew peace was only temporary, but for now he chose to live in it. One moment stood out above all. The child had grown restless one morning. She wanted to help, to do more than sit and play, so the human took her to the storage bay. He gave her simple tasks, handing him tools, holding small parts while he repaired the ship. Her little hands trembled, but she did her best. When she succeeded, her face lit up, glowing with pride. She looked at him and shouted her word for protector again and again. The human felt something stir in his chest, stronger than before. Not just duty, not just pity, something deeper, family. The alien mother came to watch. Her voice was soft but filled with strength. "She is alive because of you. She smiles because of you. Do you still doubt, human?" The human looked at both of them. The child with her bright eyes, the mother with her scarred body but unbroken spirit. He thought of the silence he once loved. It no longer called to him. He shook his head slowly. No, I do not doubt. Not anymore. The mother's eyes filled with light. For a moment, the pain of her missing arms, the sorrow of her broken past seemed to fade. She whispered words in her own tongue, words he did not know. But he felt their meaning: blessing, gratitude, bond. The engines hummed. The stars drifted by. Inside the small ship, 3 broken souls had begun to heal. But beyond the stars, danger waited. The enemies were still out there, searching. The human knew this peace could not last, and when the storm came, he would be ready. For he was no longer alone, he was a protector. He was family. The human's ship drifted through a quiet stretch of space. Stars glimmered outside the window like distant fires. Inside, the little family found a fragile rhythm. The child laughed more, the mother smiled more, and the human began to believe they had a chance at peace. But peace never lasted long in the universe. It started with a faint sound, an alarm from the scanner. A red light blinked on the console. The human leaned forward, his jaw tight. He knew that signal. It meant a ship was near. He tapped the controls, pulling the data onto the screen. At first it showed only 1 faint shadow, then another, then 5. A whole fleet moving in formation. The human's chest grew heavy. He had seen this before, predator ships hunting, searching, and now they had found him. The alien mother walked forward, her steps slow. She studied the screen, her glowing eyes narrowing. Her voice was quiet but certain. It is them. My people's killers. They followed my signal. Her words were sharp as knives. The human's hands tightened on the controls. He cursed under his breath. Of course they had followed. The mother's call for help had not only reached him, it had reached the enemy too. Behind her, the child clung to the seat, her small face pale. She didn't understand the words, but she felt the fear in the air. She whispered her name for the human protector over and over as if the word itself would shield them. The human stood. He turned to the mother. They will come for you. For the child. And for me. She nodded, her expression calm though sorrow filled her eyes. Yes, they will not rest until we are gone. If you stay human, you will die with us, the words cut deep. She was not warning him for her sake. She was warning him for his. She wanted him to have the choice to turn away before it was too late. But he did not hesitate. He stepped closer, his voice firm. Better to die with meaning than live with nothing. I am not leaving. The mother's eyes softened, tears threatening to fall. She bowed her head. Then you are truly her father. The human returned to the pilot's seat. His hands moved quickly, preparing the ship. The engines roared to life, shields rising. He set a new course into an asteroid field nearby. It was dangerous, but it could give them cover. The fleet closed in fast. Red dots filled the radar screen. The child pressed her small hand against the human's arm. She didn't speak, but her wide eyes begged for safety. He gave her a quick smile, forced but gentle. I will keep you safe. The ship plunged into the asteroid field. Massive rocks drifted in silence, shadows swallowing light. The human weaved through them, his reflexes sharp, his body steady. Behind them, enemy ships followed like wolves through trees. Blasts of plasma lit up the dark. Explosions echoed across the rocks. The ship shook violently, alarm screaming. The child cried out, but the mother wrapped her body around her, shielding her from falling debris. The human gritted his teeth. He pushed the ship harder, slipping through narrow gaps, skimming close to sharp stone. His hands remembered old battles, old tricks. He twisted, dove, and spun, making the enemy crash against rocks. 2 ships broke apart, flames vanishing into the void, but more remained. Too many. The mother's voice came again, strong despite her fear. They will not stop. They will chase us until the end. You cannot fight them all. The human's heart pounded. She was right. He could not fight a fleet alone, but he could fight smart. He remembered the old mines stored in his cargo bay, rusted weapons from forgotten wars. They were unstable, but they could still kill. He flipped a switch, releasing them into the field. The floating mines armed themselves, glowing faint red. The human guided the ship carefully, luring the enemy closer. Moments later, boom, a wave of fire spread across the rocks. 3 more ships were gone. The human didn't cheer. He only pushed forward, sweat dripping from his brow. Still, the largest ship remained, dark and silent, stalking them from behind. It did not fall for tricks. It waited patient, hungry. The mother stared at the radar, her voice almost a whisper. That one, it is their leader. He will not rest until he has me. He will not forgive you for standing with us. The human glanced at her. Then let him come. The child leaned against him, small fingers gripping his sleeve. Her trust was clear, pure, unshaken. For her, he could not fail. The asteroid field ended. Open space stretched before them, empty, vulnerable. The large enemy ship followed close. The human took a deep breath. He knew what this meant. A fight was coming. A fight he might not survive. But there was no turning back. He turned to the mother and child. Stay behind me. No matter what happens, the mother nodded. The child whispered his name for him again. Protector. The human faced the controls. His eyes burned with focus, his heart steady. The enemy ship loomed closer, massive, deadly. The threat had returned, and this time, the human would show them what it meant to fight a man with a family to protect. The human's ship burst from the asteroid field into open space. Behind, the debris burned like falling stars. Only one enemy remained, a massive warship, black as night, crawling with weapons. It followed in silence, slow but certain, like a predator that knew its prey was trapped. The human adjusted the controls. His ship was small, weak, nothing compared to the giant shadow that hunted him. But size did not matter. He had fought impossible battles before. He had survived hopeless wars. And this time he carried more than his own life. The alien mother stood behind him, her voice low. That ship is their leader. If we escape him, the others will scatter. But if he kills us, the hunt will never end. The human nodded, his eyes fixed on the dark monster filling the screen. Then we make our stand. The child clung to his arm, whispering her small word for him, protector, again and again. He placed his hand over hers, steady and firm. Stay with your mother. Do not be afraid, but inside he was afraid. His ship had no great weapons, only a few old missiles and weak shields. One wrong move and they would all be gone. Still, he knew one truth. Humans fought best when the odds were worst. The enemy ship opened fire. Blazing plasma tore through the void, lighting space with white flame. The human twisted the controls, dodging the first blast by a breath. The ship rattled, alarms screaming, but it held. He dove low, engines roaring. Missiles streaked past him, exploding into the emptiness. The small ship weaved like a dancer, slipping through death again and again. The child gasped at every blast. The mother whispered steady words in her own tongue, calming her, shielding her with voice when she could not with arms. The human gritted his teeth. He fired back. 2 missiles launched, trailing fire, slamming into the enemy's shields. A flash, a spark, but nothing more. The giant ship shook it off like rain. He cursed under his breath. Direct attacks would not work. He needed to be clever. He flew closer, too close for comfort, skimming the warship's surface. Towers of metal loomed above him, guns turning slowly, trying to catch him. He darted between them, his small ship slipping through gaps the giant could not cover. He fired again, not at the shields, but at the weapons. One cannon exploded, then another. The warship roared, spitting fire in every direction, but its aim was clumsy. The human smiled grimly. Size was strength, but size was also weakness. The battle raged on. Each second was a knife's edge. His ship shook with every near hit, his shields cracking under the strain. Smoke filled the cockpit. Warning lights flashed red. The mother called out, her voice urgent. Your ship cannot last. You must run. But the human shook his head. His voice was steel. If I run, he follows. If I fall, he wins. No, this ends now. His eyes burned with focus. His mind, sharp from years of war, found the answer. He would not defeat the warship with power. He would defeat it with cunning. He remembered the unstable fuel tank still stored in his cargo bay. Dangerous, volatile, nearly useless. Unless, he spoke quickly. Hold tight. This will be close. He pulled the ship into a sharp climb, engines screaming. The warship followed, guns blazing. At the peak, the human released the cargo. 3 old fuel tanks tumbling through the dark. Then he turned sharply and fired one last missile. The missile struck the tanks. The explosion was massive. A wave of fire rolled across space, smashing against the enemy's shields. For a moment, the warship flickered, its armor cracking under the force. The human did not waste the chance. He dove again, flying straight at the wounded beast. His last missiles armed, his hand steady. He fired everything. The warship trembled as explosions tore across its hull. Fire and smoke bled from its surface. Its guns fell silent one by one. The great shadow shuddered, then split apart in a final flash of light. The battlefield went quiet. Only drifting wreckage remained. The human leaned back in his chair, chest heaving. His ship was battered, his body aching, but they had survived. Behind him, the child cried out, not in fear but in joy. She ran to him, wrapping her small arms around his waist as best she could. Her voice rang out, "Protector, protector, protector!" The alien mother moved forward. Her glowing eyes softened, filled with something deeper than gratitude. You stood against the impossible. Alone, you faced the storm, and you won. No story of my people could have imagined such a thing. You are more than husband, more than father. You are hope itself. The human said nothing. He simply placed a hand on the child's head, his eyes fixed on the wreckage outside. He had fought alone, yes, but not for himself. He had fought for family. The war was not over. The enemy would come again in greater numbers. He knew that truth. But in this moment, he had shown them one lesson. A single human, with something to protect, was never truly alone. The wreckage of the enemy warship floated silently in the endless dark. Flames flickered for a moment, then vanished into the cold vacuum of space. The battlefield was quiet, but inside the human ship, 3 hearts still beat strong. The human leaned back in his chair. His body was tired, his arms heavy, but his spirit burned like fire. He had stood alone against a fleet leader and survived. He had faced death not for glory, not for war, but for something greater. Family. The child climbed onto his lap, her small face glowing with joy. She clapped her hands and whispered her word for him. Protector. Again and again, like a song. The human smiled faintly, though his eyes were weary. He placed his rough hand on her head, gently smoothing her hair. Safe now, he said softly. You are safe. The alien mother stepped forward, her glowing eyes fixed on him. She was scarred, broken in body, but her voice was strong. You faced the impossible. Alone, you stood where others would fall. You gave my daughter life. You gave me hope. I cannot repay this, the human shook his head. No repayment. This is what must be done. A child should not suffer because the world is cruel. The mother's eyes glistened. For the first time, tears fell down her face. She bowed deeply, though she had no arms to offer. Her voice trembled but carried the weight of truth. Then hear me, human, you are no longer only her protector. You are our blood now. You are my husband, not by need, but by choice. You are her father, not by name, but by bond. The human's chest tightened. He had never sought such words. He had never dreamed of family, never believed himself worthy of it. Yet here, in this small ship, with a mother's vow and a child's trust, he felt something stronger than any battle he had fought. Belonging. Days turned to weeks as they drifted through safer stars. The little family built their life together, fragile but real. The human taught the child simple skills, how to read his instruments, how to hold a tool, how to listen for danger. She laughed often, quick to learn, quick to love. At night, the mother taught both of them her people's traditions. She spoke of stars as ancestors, of songs that carried meaning, of promises given to children before sleep. She could not hold her daughter with arms, but her words held them both with warmth. The human listened, sometimes even joining her songs. His deep voice was rough, but the mother never laughed. Instead, she smiled and said, "Stone sings badly, but stone endures." And slowly the ship no longer felt like a machine. It felt like a home, yet shadows remained. The human knew the destroyed warship was only the beginning. The enemy had lost one leader, but others would rise. Sooner or later, they would return, stronger and angrier. The mother understood this too. One night, as the child slept, she spoke quietly. "They will come again. They will never forgive what you have done." The human nodded. "Then we fight again. And if I fall, the child must live. That is all that matters." But the mother shook her head. "No, not only live. She must grow. She must learn to carry both of us. She must know what it means to be human, and what it means to be of my people. She will be a bridge between worlds." Her words struck him deeply. He realized then that this was not only about survival. It was about legacy. The child was more than a daughter. She was the future, proof that 2 broken lives could build something new, proof that human strength and alien spirit could stand together. The human looked at her sleeping face, peaceful and innocent, and whispered a silent vow. She will live. She will grow. She will carry hope further than I ever could. The next morning, the child woke early. She ran to the cockpit, climbed into his lap, and pointed at the stars. Her eyes were bright, filled with wonder. "Where we go?" she asked in broken words, mixing her tongue with his. The human smiled. "Forward," he said simply. "Always forward." The mother stepped beside them. Her glowing eyes softened as she gazed at the stars. "Then forward we go. To new worlds, to new stories, to a place where she can run free." The ship drifted onward, small and fragile compared to the endless universe. But inside it carried something stronger than weapons, stronger than war. A family, and a family was enough to change everything. The human knew battles would come again. He knew enemies waited, but he also knew this truth. No fleet, no empire, no shadow could truly defeat a human with something to protect. He had no arms to hold him back. He had no silence to chain him down. He had a daughter who called him protector, and a wife who called him hope. Together they were not lost survivors. They were the beginning of something new. The stars stretched wide before them, endless and waiting. And in that vast silence, a legacy was born.